Dear students, welcome to yet another lecture of your preparatory module on CLAT. Today, we are going to discuss root words. We are going to discuss the conceptuality of root words and we'll end up with some practice. Now, to begin with, let me discuss with you the lecture outline. First, it will be root words, introduction, how and why of root words, common prefixes and suffixes that we use to make meaning out of words, a small illustration of breaking down words, then some root words in various disciplines like philosophy, literature, social sciences, and mathematics, commonly confused root words, interactive activity 1, 2, and 3. We'll have 3 interactive activities, and then how knowledge of root words help you find the right answer. And eventually, we end up with 2 practice exercises where we are going to discuss the types of questions that might be asked in the examination, direct or indirect questions that we might come across in the examination. So let's begin the lecture. Now, first, what are root words? The foundation of a word that contains its primary meaning, often derived from ancient languages like Latin and Greek. Prefixes and suffixes modify or expand this meaning. Now, as you know, when you see the evolution of English language, I'll just take you a bit to the historical part. Now, when you see the evolution of English language, what we come across is the fact that most of the words in the language that are not from English have made its way from Latin, Greek, and later on from French. And back at the time when there were 4 dialects spoken in and around London, East Midland dialect came on to be the English that we speak today. So the English that we speak today came from the East Midland dialect. And entirely, if you see the history of evolution of English language, there's a massive influence of Latin, Greek, and eventually of French. That's why there is no uniform pronunciation pattern. There are a lot of foreign words and phrases that are very widely used in English and widely acceptable. So that's the basic nature of language, that it accommodates a lot of foreign words, foreign phrases. Now, example, let's see, there are some of the examples written. For example, transport. There's a common word, transport. Now this sounds very common. Transport. Transport means any to carry across one from one place to another. Here you need to understand that at times there are verbs. Verbs means noun plus verb. It's a portmanteau word. Many words are verbs. Verbs means they are used both as a noun and as a verb. Okay. Transport is also one such word. Okay. These days, transport is used as equally as a verb as well as a noun. Okay. So when you see the prefix trans, okay, that is across, that means to carry across. All right. So to port. So transport here got its meaning. Now, to understand the meaning of the word that is derived from a particular root, for example, you say nebula, something related to cloud. Now, when you see the root neb, I'm just giving an example out of context. So you see neb, that means something related to cloud. Okay. Or perhaps when you say cosmos, something related to universe. Okay. So like this, when you know the roots, it becomes very easy to understand the meaning of the words. And even if you don't understand the meaning of the words, you can eventually have an educated guess over what could possibly be the meaning. Now, the root spec here, if you come back to the slide, the root spec to see forms words like spectacle, that is something to see, inspect, to look into, to inquire into, and perspective, that is a way of seeing. Okay, how your perspective differs from my perspective, the way you look at something. Okay, so these are root words. Now let's move ahead. Why are root words important for exams? Because it helps you guess the meaning of unfamiliar words. All right. It reduces reliance on rote memorization. That is correct. It strengthens vocabulary for reading comprehension, verbal reasoning, and essay writing. And it is common in exams like CLAT. So in exams like common law admission test, okay, for common admission test and for other very many competitive examinations where English, where verbal aptitude is asked, it is quite common for students to have a knowledge of root words. Now, how do root words work? Now, words are often a combination of prefix, that is adds context or modifies meaning, root, that is core meaning, and suffix changes the function or grammatical use. Now, examples are predict. Okay, so first there's a prefix pre, then root is dict, that is say, to say beforehand, that is predict. Second, biology. Now the prefix is bio, that is life. Suffix is logy, that is study of. Okay, whenever you find logy, okay, epistemology, etymology, yeah, that is always a study of. So here, if you see, if you know the two roots, bio and logy, you know it's a study of life, that is biology, that is the normal subject that we study. Okay, and the same with predict. So just an example of how root words work and how understanding roots can help you understand the meaning of the word. Why one should study root words? Because it expands vocabulary efficiently, it improves reading comprehension, it enhances spelling skills, it boosts performance on standardized tests like the one that you are going to appear, CLAT. It develops a deeper understanding of language and it aids in learning foreign languages. Okay, so that's why one should study root words. Now, since you know that prefixes and suffixes, they are known as affixes in language. So okay, so there are two types of affix, that is prefix and suffix. Prefix, like the name suggests, is attached before the word to give the desired meaning, and suffix, as opposite to prefix, is added after the word to give the meaning. Now prefix, pre meaning before, the examples are preview, predict. Re, that means again, examples are revisit, rebuild. Okay, un, that is not, unlikely, unhappy. Sub, that is under or below, submarine, subway. And anti, that is against, antisocial, antidote. Now these are quite common words and quite common prefixes, just to tell you that how prefixes and their uses actually changes the meaning of the word. Now the task for you is to stop the video here and think of at least 5 prefixes and their uses. Though I know most of you know what prefixes are, but just to facilitate things, I've given you a list of 5 prefixes. What I want you to do right now, like I said, stop this video here, pause this video here, think and write 5 prefixes and their meaning along with some examples. Moving ahead, common suffixes and their use. Now, as prefixes are fixed before the word, suffixes actually come after the word and give us the desired meaning. Now, 5 examples are here. The examples are, first, ment, MENT, that is state or action. Okay, enjoyment or movement. Able or able, okay, that is capable of. Reliable, credible. Third, ology, that is study of. Biology, psychology. Okay, so ology is a study of. So biology and psychology are two examples that are derived out of this suffix. Unless, that is without. All right, hopeless, that is without hope. And fearless, that is without fear. Ist, IST or IAN. Okay, now this is for someone who practices something. Okay, now the one who practices art is known as artist. Okay, one who practices the study or one who is an expert in the study of history is known as historian. Now you must know where to keep IST and where to keep IAN. Okay, so that's how the words artist and historian are derived. Now again I'm giving you a practice exercise to do. You can pause this video here and think of how many suffixes you can think and some examples each. This way this video becomes more interactive, like these are recorded lectures, so to make them more interesting you can pause it here and you can do these exercises. Now moving on, now some of the key root words for exam, some of the examples for your examination. For example, bio meaning life, biography, biology. Okay, now biography basically is a life story of some person. Okay, biology is the study of life, a study of living organisms. Okay, here I've got one more question for you. Biography is a life story of some person. Now tell me, what do you mean by autobiography? So if you add one prefix auto into biography, see how again knowing roots is making things easy. Auto means by oneself. Okay, so autobiography is a life story of a person that is written by themselves only. Okay, so that's how the word autobiography came into existence. Cred means to believe. Okay, now credible is something that can be believed. Okay, credentials means details of a person. Okay, cred. Dict, to say or to speak. Dictate and prediction. Dictate means to speak something. Okay, prediction means to say something about future. Okay, that is dict. The next one is geo, that is earth, geography, geology. Okay, I think we need not discuss everything. Most of these words might be known to you, but the point here is how these words evolve from the same root and how understanding root would help you know the meaning of these words. If you see the next one, it's port, that is to carry, transport, import. Okay, and the next is phobia. Phobia is fear of. Okay, like claustrophobia. Now, what is claustrophobia? It's a fear of confined spaces. Okay, claustrophobia is the word, xenophobia is the word. There are many other words that you can think of. Okay, again, a small exercise for you, that you can pause this video here and you can think of some of the other words that I've given you the root of. For example, bio, it's biography and biology. Can you think of some other words from bio, from cred, dict, geo, port, and phobia? Okay, I'm sure if you think, you can think of many words. Okay, and that's what makes your understanding of language even more stronger, even more firm, so that you know how words have evolved. And tomorrow if you find some question in the examination where you might not really be knowing the meaning of the word, so you can actually look at the word very carefully and see if there's any root that you can figure out, so that it helps you make an educated guess. Now moving on, breaking down words. Just an example of breaking down words and how it could possibly help you. For example, you've come across a word named autonomous, and now since autonomous is a common word, chances are high that you know the meaning of the word autonomous. But say you did not really know the meaning of the word autonomous. So here auto means self, by oneself. Nomos here basically means law. The root nomos is law. So autonomous basically means self-governing. Okay, so any of the autonomous institutions like a university. So universities are in general autonomous institutions. Okay, this organization is an autonomous organization, means self-governing. Example 2, philanthropy. So phil basically means love. Okay, anthro is human. Okay, you might have heard anthropology. Okay, study of humans. Okay, or particularly of the human civilizations. Phil is love. Okay, so philology. Okay, a lot of other words that you've seen from this. So when you combine these two, philanthropy basically is a love of humanity. That is a person who does a lot of charity. They serve others. They like serving others. So what is that? That is philanthropy. Benevolent, again quite a common word. Bene is good. Okay, and volent is wishing. Okay, is wishing good or kind hearted. Okay, a kind hearted person is known as a benevolent person. Okay, so that's where we got benevolent. Example for thermodynamics. Okay, thermodynamics, like we know, is a study of heat and motion. Okay, so see how the word got evolved. Thermo is heat and dynamics is force or motion. Okay, so that's how breaking down words at times could help you understand the meaning. Now, here's a disclaimer that I must give. Not everyone will have, not every word, I'm sorry, not every one word will have a root in it. Okay, some word generally acquire the meaning in a cultural context, and in some words, they are not at all related with any root. However, a lot of words in English language are the words where you can see that roots will be there. Okay, so one must know that understanding roots, having a hold on roots of words will certainly help you, though it is not definite that every word you come across will have a root, okay, and will have a prefix and a suffix. No, not possible. However, many words might help you in your exam. Now let's move and let's see various root words that you might come across in various disciplines. Okay, here root words in various disciplines. So now we are going to discuss some of the root words in various disciplines, and then we do some interactive activities. Now, root words in philosophy, common philosophy roots, soft, okay, wisdom, okay, that is philosophy, sophisticated, sophomore. That is soph. Okay, philosophy, sophisticated, sophomore are the words from this. Okay, many of you who might go to college, you call, freshman year, sophomore year, and then you say junior year and senior year. These are the four nomenclatures that are quite common in US universities, not only in US universities, in Indian universities now as well. So second year is very often known as sophomore year. Okay. Log, word or reason, logic, dialogue, monologue. Okay. Now what is monologue? If you remember, in literature, you might have seen in a drama, a person speaks a long monologue. Okay. So dialogue is between two people. Monologue, like again, understanding the word, mono is one person. When one person is speaking the dialogue, okay, and they are not speaking to one person but they are to any other person, they are speaking to themselves, or rather addressing to the audience. That's monologue. Okay, so many of the drama of Shakespeare has very famous monologues. Eth, that is character. Ethics, ethos, and ethical. Okay, ethical hacking we say these days. Okay, ethical is the word that is used in a very positive connotation. Okay, so from these words have evolved. Onto, being, ontologist, okay, ontological, ontogenesis, these are the words. Epist, okay, what is epistemology? A study of knowledge. Epistemology. Epistemic, epistemological. Okay, so epist is the root from where these all words came. So not that these are the only words that have roots, but these are some of the common words. Okay, so for someone who don't really know the meaning of these words at all, if by any chance they know the root, they can very well guess. Okay, let's move on. Now, root words in literature and arts. Okay, now what are some of the root words in the field of literature and arts? Okay, you can take a look by yourself. First is litter, that is letter, literature, literate, illiterate. In the sense, the ability to understand something. Okay, so literature, literal, illiterate. Okay, literal meaning, you might have seen what is the literal meaning of that particular term, okay, of the text. Aesth, that is feeling or perception. Okay, aesthetic, when you want to appreciate the beauty of something, you say the aesthetics. Okay, anesthetic, okay, a doctor, one who injects an injection from where the feeling of from one particular area, or perhaps you either lose senses, okay, or perhaps from one particular area the feeling and perception sense is gone. Okay, so during medical procedures they do call an anesthetic. Okay, synesthesia, again the word from the same root, aesthet. Pict is paint. Okay, pict is paint. So it's quite a common root. Picture, depict, pictograph. NARR, ner. Okay, to tell. Okay, narrative, narrator, narration. Okay, to tell, narrative. Okay, narrative basically is a story. Okay, so nar. Then poet. Okay, that is make. All right, poetry, poetic, onomatopoeia. Okay, onomatopoeia is a famous figure of speech. Okay, so poet like this. So there are some of these common words that are very commonly used in literature and arts, and while reading some of the books you might have, especially classical texts, you might have come across many of these words. So the point here is to tell you that there are, with all these words, there is some or the other root involved. Okay, now root words in social sciences. Okay, now common social science roots. Okay, now these are the common social science roots, as you can see. Socio, okay, that is companion. Sociology, antisocial, sociable. Okay, that is socio. Then anthrop. Okay, anthropology, like the name suggests. Okay, philanthropy, misanthropy. So misanthropy basically is an opposite word of philanthropy. Okay, psych. Okay, psychology, psychic, psychosomatic. All right, related to mind. Okay, demo, like you say, demography. Okay, so demo here refers to people. Now this demo as a root is different from demo. Okay, when you say please show us the demo, so a practice sort of thing, that demo word is different, this demo root is different. Okay, so you must keep that in mind. Democracy, okay, like we have democracy in India, state of government, the type of system that we follow. Demographics, okay, that means the percentage of people following different faith, different religion, okay, different language. So demographics. Epidemic, okay, like the one that we had recently. Okay, epidemic. Poly, related to city. Okay, politics, metropolis, cosmopolitan. Okay, so these are some of the root words in social sciences. If you go to Google and if you try to search some of these root words in various disciplines, you'll find a lot of these root words. And what happens when you study words, when you try to understand words through roots, you don't have to memorize each and everything. Understanding one root, for example, in this case, say understanding a root like anthrop, that is related to human, you will very easily be able to figure out the meaning of the words like anthropology, philanthropy, misanthropy, and all these words. Okay, now let's see root words in mathematics. Okay, now that's the last one. There are many fields like this, but we'll cover only these four. So some of the root words in mathematics. Now, there's one more thing, students, that I would like to tell you since we are discussing this. Many of the root words, many of the words have indirect relation with their roots. Okay, because like I told you in previous lectures as well, that words also have a life of their own. They evolve, they exist along with time, with time they travel, and eventually they lose their meaning. Okay, and then they die. So when a word dies, it's known as obsolete. Okay, so many words you might have come across. For example, the word you, we use the word you, but we don't say thou, thou, because the word thou has become obsolete now. Okay, so there are many words like this. So there are many words that are indirectly related to their roots as well. Okay, you might not really see the direct connection, but if you study the etymology of how the words have come into being, you will understand that there's a very deep connection. Okay, so let's very quickly see what's here on the screen. Calc, stone, pebble, used for counting. Calculate, calculus are the words that have come from this root. Geo, earth. Geometry, geography, geopolitical. Okay, the geopolitical scenario surrounding India, the geopolitics of the region. Okay, geography, geometry. Okay, geo is related to earth. Meter, METR, that is measure. Okay, metric, symmetry, parametric. Okay, METR. Okay, poly. Okay, poly means many. Just like mono means one, poly means many. Polygon, polynomial, polymath. Okay, so there are many words like this. Algo, pain, but in maths context, it is process. So algo root could have had two meanings. Okay, it's pain also, but in mathematical context, it is process. So algorithm, algorithmic. Okay, so all these words are from mathematics, and whenever you come across these words, you can understand that if they have that root like geo, poly, meta, okay, they could be related to something that their root represents. All right, now moving forward, let I have a very small interactive activity for you before we go for the final practice. For example, since we have just studied roots of a lot of words, can you just pause this video here and decode the words by yourself? For example, what do these words mean? Photograph, television, sympathy. What do these words mean? Now, if you see, okay, you see here, here's the answer to this. Here is the answer to this. Photograph. Earlier, photograph, basically how this word has evolved. Okay, photo means write, graph means to write or draw. Okay, writing or drawing with light. So earlier, how photograph used to be clicked. Okay, it used to be clicked with the help of light. Okay, still, if you see the traditional sense of photography, they would take the reels and they would keep them in sunlight. Okay, so that the entire structure comes into it. So that's how the word evolved. Okay, so photograph basically means to draw or write, or perhaps to draw something in light. So that's photograph. Okay, the modern context in which we see photography has changed, but when you go to the basics, you see that's how photos were being clicked. Television. Tele means distance, vision means sight. Television, seeing from a distance. Okay, sympathy. Sim means together, path refers to feeling. So feeling together, sympathy. Okay, so that's how these words have come. Let's again go back. So these words, photograph, television, and sympathy, they have a strong connection with the roots that they come from. Now, moving on, interactive activity 2. Now, again, I want you all to just pause this video for a while and match the root from the given options. Okay, now we have three roots here: cron, therm, and scrib. Okay, so for cron, it could either be right, time, or earth. For therm, it could be heat, light, or feeling. For scrib, it could be carry, write, or speak. Okay, so you can pause this video and you can figure out the answers. Now let's see the answers. Now here, cron basically means time. The root relates to the concept of time. Therm to heat, and scrib to write. Okay, now some words from these roots are from cron: chronology, chronic, synchronize. From therm, it's thermometer, thermostat, and thermal. From scrib, it is scribble, describe, inscription. Okay, so these are the roots: cron, therm, and scrib. All right, now very quickly, the last interactive activity, creating your own words. Now I want you all to focus a little here, combine some of the roots, prefixes, and suffixes that you know, and create words from them. And you see and check by yourself if you are able to create at least 5 words that are sensible and meaningful, that really exists. Okay, so just pause this video for a while and think. Now, let's discuss the answers to this. See here. Cron is time. Phobia is fear. So the word we have here is chronophobia, the fear of time. The next, bio, that is life. Sphere, globe, biosphere. Okay, global sum of ecosystems. Okay, tele is distance, path is feeling, and then we have added a suffix ic, telepathic. Okay, you know telepathy, in ancient India we believe there was used to be a culture of telepathy. Okay, telepathy was quite known there. Telepathic is related to thought transference. Okay, telepathy. So these are some of the interactive activities for you. Now let's see how knowledge of right words help you find the right answer. Okay, now before we go for the final practice, let's discuss how the knowledge is important and why the knowledge is important, because in this particular section we have discussed quite a bit of root words and various roots. Now, how this will help you find the right answer. For example, if you see this question, which word is the best antonym for benevolent? A, charitable; B, malevolent; C, generous; and D, kind. Now, if you do the root word analysis of benevolent, now benevolent breaks down into bene, that is a Latin root, that is good or well. Volent means volo, that is wishing or willing. So benevolent literally means wishing good. Okay, and if you see the correct answer out of the four options, that is malevolent. Now here's a disclaimer: don't go by the word pattern. Not that only because malevolent has the same prefix, then it could be the same. In this case, it is, but not always. So don't go by this generalization that if two words sound same, or if the two words have the same prefix or have the same suffix, they might, that might be the correct answer. No. At times in examination, an option is given only to distract you. Okay, so don't go by that logic. However, in this context, malevolent is the correct answer. So malevolent is breaks down into mal, the Latin word is bad or evil. Volent is wishing or willing. So malevolent literally means wishing evil. Okay, understanding the root words show that mal is the direct opposite of bene, while keeping the same root volent, making it a perfect antonym. Okay, so the antonym of benevolent is malevolent. In this context, malevolent is the correct answer. Now, let's see one more example like this. What is the antonym of retrospect? See, students, in general, you might be knowing all these words because these are quite common words. But the aim here is to make you understand how knowing the roots would help you find the right answer. Okay, now the question is, what is the antonym of retrospect? Prospect, respect, inspect, project. Now, what I was saying in the last slide, don't ever think that if there's a common synonym or antonym of the question word, of the root word in the answer options, then it could be the correct answer, because there could be questions like this where the suffixes could be the same. Okay, in this prospect, respect, inspect, project, okay, the suffix happens to be the same. So let's see what is the correct answer. Root word analysis. Retrospect means it breaks down into retro, that is the Latin word backward, spect, to look. So retrospect means to look backward. Okay, we use this word quite commonly in our day-to-day language. Now, prospect breaks down into, which happens to be the correct answer, option A. So prospect breaks down into pro, that is Latin word for forward, and spect, that is to look. So prospect means to look forward. Okay, so the answer is A, prospect. Now, understanding that retro backward and pro prospect forward are opposite prefixes, while both words share the same root, that is spect, makes it clear that prospect is the logical antonym of retrospect. All right, let's move forward quickly. What is the closest synonym? Now, this time we have a synonym question. What is the closest synonym of the word circumlocution? So find the synonym of the word circumlocution, that is conciseness, evasion, precision, and clarity. Now, let's see what the correct answer is. That is B, evasion. And if you see the explanation, circumlocution is derived from the roots circum, that is around, and locute, that is speak. Okay, now circumlocution means speaking in a roundabout way. Okay, often to avoid directly addressing an issue. Okay, so this understanding eliminates direct terms like conciseness and clarity. So circumlocution means not speaking directly, but going here and there. There's a phrase, very famous saying, beating around the bush, okay, or beating about the bush. Okay, both of the versions are quite common. That means not addressing the topic directly, but going here and there. That is known as circumlocution, that is evasion. All right, Let's move ahead with the next example. Now, what is the closest synonym of the word philanthropic? Okay, so like we've already discussed this root. So there are four options that you have: greedy, charitable, indifferent, and hostile. Now let's see the explanation to it. Let's see the root word. Philanthropic comes from the roots phil, that is love, and anthrop, that is human. It refers to a love for humanity, typically expressed through generosity and charity, leading to charitable as the correct choice. Okay, so philanthropic, phil basically means love, anthrop is human. So love for humanity. Okay, a person who does a lot of charity is a philanthropic person. Okay, so the correct answer here is charitable. Now, this was just an example of how understanding root words can actually help you understand the answer. Now, we'll practice various types of questions that could possibly be asked in the examination. Now, there might be chances that there are no direct questions from root words. Okay, because in examination, they have a fixed pattern. Okay, and they have certain limitations because these are standardized tests and they have particular section, and in every section they have some questions that they have to ask. So high chances that direct root words might not be asked in the CLAT examination. However, having said that, I will tell you the kind of direct or indirect questions that can particularly come, and by this thorough practice of root words, I'm pretty sure that your command over vocabulary will increase many times, so that your general understanding of a paragraph, your general understanding of what's written is enhanced. And in general, your aptitude, your linguistic aptitude, your verbal aptitude is only tested in the examinations like CLAT. So without wasting much time, let's quickly start the practice. Again, a very simple question. Question word, fill in the blank. The root port means to carry. What does deport mean? Okay, to carry or send someone again, away. Okay, deport, you say, the word d, the synonym d is the prefix d is there, deport. Okay, so to carry or send someone away. Okay, now the root graph means to write. What does autograph mean? Okay, a person's written signature. Okay, graph means to write, auto means from that person only. Okay, so that's how these words actually make meaning. All right. Now, in the practice exercise 2, types of MCQs from root words. Now, what could be the types of MCQs that could be asked from root words? Like I said, the chances are less that you will find direct questions from root words, but these are the questions that you will find. Synonym questions you can find, antonym questions you can find, or questions where, having the knowledge of root words will help you greatly decide which could, what could actually the sentence mean. So, here, synonym MCQ. First, what is the closest synonym of the word portage? Okay, so A, transport, B, stop, C, build, D, destroy. Okay, now explanation. Transport. Portage comes from the root port, meaning carry. The word refers to the act of carrying something, especially boats or goods, making transport the closest synonym. All right, that's the first kind of question. Again, antonym MCQ. Now, what is the antonym of credible? We have already discussed this root: cred, trustworthy, doubtful, believable, reliable. So, what is the antonym of credible? These are the four options you have. Before I move on to the next slide, you can pause it and think and answer. And here happens to be the answer. That is doubtful. Now, credible comes from the root cred, that is to believe. Okay, you believe something, that is credible. We often say the phrase credible sources, or the source of an information is credible. Okay, credibility, or the other words incredulous, incredibility. Okay, incredulity. All these are the words related to the same root. So credible comes from the root cred, that is to believe. So its opposite would relate to disbelief or doubt. So the correct answer here in this context is B, that is doubtful. Now, contextual use MCQs. The politician's speech was criticized for its circumlocution. This means ABCD. It was concise and to the point. B. It was unnecessarily indirect language. Fine. C. It contained many errors. And D. It was emotional and inspiring. Okay. Now, since circumlocution we have discussed recently, it will be very easy for you to figure out the answer. So here the answer it used unnecessarily indirect language. Okay. Again, repeating the explanation once again. The root circum means around and locute means speak. That means speaking in a roundabout way, not directly addressing the point. So those politicians spoke about things that are here and there. Okay, but they did not address the major issue. Okay, so that is circumlocution. Now, prefix based MCQ. Here, which word contains the prefix meaning before? Okay, it would not be very tough for you to figure out. Postscript, predict, rewrite, indirect. Okay, so which word contains the prefix meaning before? It is B, that is predict. Okay, the prefix pre means before. In predict, it means to say before or foresee. Now, if I go back to the same question, I'll rather ask you to figure out that which other prefixes are used in all the four words and what do they mean, and try and make some words from them. Having a sound knowledge of prefix and suffixes will help you greatly understand what a word means. Now, not related to roots as well, in general also, having a knowledge of what prefix or suffix is used would in general enhance the understanding of the word. If you know the root words, well and good. Okay, that will work wonders. But only by knowing prefix and suffix as well, it will help you greatly solve the answers to the prefix based MCQs. Now, suffix based MCQ. What does suffix ology means in biology? Study of, practice of, related to, or opposite of? That is a study of. The suffix ology indicates a study of. So biology means a study of life. Now the question for you is, pause the video here and think of some other ology words. Okay, for example, there's a word criminology. Now what could criminology mean? Okay, so what are the other ology words that you mean, that you remember? Make a list of it. And why am I making this a bit interactive? Because this is how you learn. Okay, I say something, you think of it, you do it by yourself, and that's how things are stored in your mind. Now, root word association MCQ. Now, the question here is, which of these words is related to the root graph? Telegraph, verdict, transport, inject. Quite an easy one. The explanation is telegraph. The root graph means to write. Telegraph refers to writing or sending messages over a distance. Now, if you see, a lot of words are there where the word graph is used. Okay, and what exactly does this mean? Okay, so you think of words where you find the word graph either in the starting of the word or at the end. Okay, either as a prefix or as a suffix or in between. For example, you say a telegraphy test. Okay, so what does that supposed to mean? All right, so a lot of words are there where you'll find directly or indirectly the word graph, and you have to think what that's supposed to mean. Is that related to this root graph or not? Now let's move. Analogy MCQ. Credible is to believe. Now again, these analogy MCQs are also quite common in many examinations, though they might not be asked in the CLAT examination right away, but in very many other examinations we'll find this analogy based MCQs. Now credible is to believe, as portable is to A, write, B, heat, C, carry, and D, build. Now let's see, that is to C, carry is the correct answer. Now for credible, the root is cred, that means able to be delivered. Okay, similarly portable, root is port, means to be able to be carried. Okay, so for credible is to be believed, portable is to be carried. Okay, now if we see build, carry, heat and ride, so carried, you might have used this word portable. Earlier laptops used to be called portable computers. Okay, a portable gaming device. Okay, a portable this, portable that. That means something that you can carry with yourself. Okay, so here it is, the answer is carry. Now fill in the blank MCQ. The root term means heat. Okay, now which word best fits the definition? That is thermometer, autograph, import or predict. Here the answer is thermometer, as it's quite visible from the word itself. Thermometer is derived from the word therm, that is to heat, and meter, that is to measure. That means an instrument to measure heat. Okay, so thermometer is generally used to measure the heat levels of the body. Okay, so that's thermometer. The next MCQ is word formation MCQ. What does the word geography mean? Now, geo root we have already discussed. A study of life. B, writing about earth. C, study of stars. And D, measuring heat. Okay, so that is B, writing about earth. The root geo, that is earth, and graph, that is write, together means writing about or mapping the earth. That is geography, that is writing about earth. Now here we come. Okay, here we are done with the practice module. Now tips for memorizing root words. Now there are some of these tips that you can find for memorizing the root words. That is, use mnemonics. Okay, that is bio. Okay, think of a biography telling someone's life story. Okay, now once you think of biography like this, you can also think of a word autobiography, because auto is by oneself and bio is life. So what you need to do, you need to make a diagram. Okay, as in you need to take a plain paper, write the word bio in the center of the paper, then keep a lot of lines and start writing the words wherever you find the root bio. Biography, biology, autobiology, autobiography, okay, biosphere, all the words that are related to the root bio. Okay, so bio here roughly relates to telling someone's life story related to life. Okay, so bio, out and out, you must understand that if you're finding this particular word bio, that is particularly related to someone's life. Okay, like this there are many things. For example, auto, that is by oneself. I told you the example of neb. Okay, or say cred, believe. So again you can do this exercise by yourself right after this class, that you on a piece of paper you write cred, and then you write all the words that you are finding or that you can remember from cred. Okay, credibility, credulous, incredibility, okay, incredulous. Okay, and then you see how from the combination of a root and various prefixes and suffixes, you can actually make a lot of words. Now group related words, port. Okay, so from port the word comes transport, import, export, portable. Okay, like I said, this is what I think I suggested you just now. From port, make a list of all the words that you find from port. From this, what will happen? Eventually, the way you see and the way you understand the meaning of the words will change. Whenever you see a word that you don't know the meaning of, you will try to see that what synonyms or what antonyms are used there. For example, if you have a good understanding of synonyms and prefixes and suffixes, there you find a word where there's a prefix im written. Now, im in general, for example, if you say imperfect, so im is generally used a synonym that denotes not. Okay, imperfect is not perfect. Okay, so im generally has a certain prefixed meaning that comes with it. So does all the other prefixes. So having a good knowledge of prefix and suffix that way can actually help you understand the meaning of the word, if not the exact meaning, but exactly an idea of what is it could possibly mean. So create flashcards, write root on one side and meaning examples on other side. Now again, creating flashcards could be a bit time taking, but in the long run, if you create flashcards and if you keep practicing, the expanse of your vocabulary will be really broad. Okay, there'll be a lot of words that you'll be learning. Okay, and writing root on one side and the meaning and examples on the other side, especially for the words that you don't really know. For new words would help you memorize words, because let me tell you students, in English the expanse of vocabulary is so broad that practically to remember each and every word is not possible. There are lakhs of words. Okay, and with the advent of technology, there are new words being introduced in the language every day. Okay, so to understand this way, okay, you need to develop a conceptual understanding of words. All right, and at the last is practice daily with apps like Quizlet or Anki. There are apps like Quizlet that really help you memorize words. So these are some of the things that I had to discuss with you in root words. I hope you have enjoyed this lecture, dear students, and later on I'll meet you with some other lecture. So for this discussion, we'll end here. Thank you so very much. I hope you have enjoyed this lecture. Thank you.